Hello Maspoti sema wethu emakhaya nakwindawo ngendaweni bukeleni kuzo siyanamkela kwisiqendu sethu sale veki senkqubo yilungelo lakho it's your right igama lami ngusisanda Jonas sibulela ke ukuba nibe nathi kule yure esiza kuba ke siphefumlelana ngencoko yethu yanamhlanje ukuthabatha inxaxheba ke apha ekambeni kwethuba siza kunivulela iminxeba ukuba nani nivakalise izimvo zenu. Our studio call-in numbers are 011-714-6918 okanye ke ku-011-714-6919. Masifumana nge-email ku-consumer@sabc.co.za or catch us on Facebook or Twitter. More than 6 million people in South Africa suffer from high blood pressure, exposing them to life-threatening diseases such as stroke. And stroke is said to be the 4th cause of most deaths in the country. It has also left many survivors chronically disabled. And it's all as a result of salt levels and other preservatives contained in the pre-packaged foods and other takeaways we all love to eat. Make sibukele ke elinqaku esilenzelwe nguNompumelelo Mthethwa.
Siyathanda ukudla amabhega kanye nokudla okusheshayo abanye bathanda ukubhema nokuphuza okubhlungu ukuthi abathengi abanaka ukuthi lokhu kungabeka izimpilo zabo engcupheni yingakho ke ungqongqoshe wezompilo uDokotela uAaron Motsoaledi esanda kungenela izinkampani ezikhiqiza ukudla ekutheni zehlise izinga lika sawoti kanye nezinye izinandisi ekudleni abakwenzayo. Abantu aba-130 lapha eMzansi Afrika bahlaselwa izifo zenhliziyo mhla yonke kanti aba-240 bahlaselwa istroke. Kanti ke izimpawu ze-stroke ukukhathala ebusweni, ingalo nomlenze ikakhulukazi ehlangothini elilodwa lomzimba. Ukuhluleka ukukhuluma kahle, ukungasaboni kahle ehlweni elilodwa noma amehlo amabili kahle. Kanti ke upoison, ukushukela, usawoti kanye namafutha amaningi abathengi abakuthandayo kakhulu. Okubalekile ke ukuthi abathengi banciphise izinga abadla ngalo lezi zinto. Bayaxwayisa abathengi ukuthi bezijwayeze ukudla okunempilo kakhulukazi izithelo. Ocwepheshe bathi ukudla okunomsoco ilokhu okuphekwa emakhaya futhi akudli kanti nasephaketheni. Kanti ke ungakwazi ukuhlukana nalokudla okubanga zonke lezi zifo kumele uzifundise ukuthi ukudle kancane kakhulu. Abathengi bayaxwayisa ukuthi baqhathanise amalebuli uma bethenga ema-supermarket bethathe ukudla okunezinga eliphansi likashukela, usawoti kanye namafutha. Ukudla okunempilo kanye nezithelo eziningi kungawanciphisa amathuba okuhlaselwa istroke, isifo sikashukela, isifo somdlavuza kanye nesifo samathambo kanye nokungasebenzi kwezinso. Ukungadli ukudla okunempilo kungabanga ukugula kwesikhathi eside. Umkhakhaso womnyango wezempilo iThe Vision 2013 isemgqeni neminye imikhankaso yeThe Ministry of Health ukuze kuthuthukiswe ezempilo. Ngokwe-The Planning Commission, uMzansi Afrika usendleleni ephumelelayo emva kwesikhathi esinzima ephuma kuso. Nangoba umkhakhaso kaNgqongqoshe wezempilo ungazange ubajabulise abakhiqizi bokudla, kodwa kuyilungelo labathengi ukudayiselwa ukudla okunempilo. Kanti abaningi bazijabulela kakhulu lezi zindaba. Kanti ke sekusezandleni zabathengi ukuthi bezikhethele indlela yokuphila impilo enempilo. Nompumelelo Mthethwa, yilungelo lakho, eGoli.
And now to take our discussion further on the importance of safe and healthy foods, let's extend a warm welcome to Professor Girish Modi, the head of neurology at Wits University. Samkele ke nomandisa Munamidzi yena ke ovela kwi-Stroke Survivor Foundation. Thank you very much for your time. Professor, let me start with you just on the significance of a new legislation that was signed, I think, the 18th of March this year by Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. He's been long campaigning for international community to put pressure on food industries to legislate our salt intake. Just your thoughts on that and the significance of this in South Africa.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that stroke is the fourth reason why people die in our country. And when you think about strokes, heart attacks, high blood pressure, these are all diseases of what we call the vascular system, or your blood vessels. Now, if you just think about the body, we have all these organs, we have the brain, we have the heart, we have other organs, and all these organs get their nutrition from the blood vessels. So what we eat gets digested, it then gets absorbed, and it has to form the main nutrients. And the nutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and then your elements, including salt. Right. Now, we know that this affects the blood vessels that carry these nutrients to the cells, right? And now salt is one of the biggest factors, because salt changes those blood vessels. Amongst other things, salt, fats, the cholesterol, those issues damage these blood vessels, and it changes the resistance of the blood vessels. So they're like little pipes that are supposed to be supple and, pulsatile, and the blood must flow nicely, what we call laminar flow, smoothly. And all these bad dietary habits have now, we know for a fact, what they do is they change the flow, the distensibility, the elasticity of those blood vessels changes, and salt plays a big role in what we call hardening of the arteries. And that causes problems. If the blood flow to the brain decreases, we get a stroke. To the heart decreases, we get a heart attack. To the kidneys, we get hypertension. So all these factors are very huge. And the legislation is welcomed by health professionals, because reducing a simple thing like salt in your diet drops your blood pressure. Blood pressure drops, the arteries are not so bounding, they're not so hardened, the diseases of the arteries reduce, and we lead a better life.
Yes.
The risks of these catastrophic events reduces.
I mean, the link now is our lifestyle behavior and these diseases, and that's what we're trying to talk to our consumers about. Lifestyle behavior, change your lifestyle.
I mean, but it's a whole thing. It's not just, you see, we say lifestyle, and what happens? Everyone runs to the gym, right? And you start gymming, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I'm not discouraging that.
But you're not watching what you're eating as well.
You've got to watch what you eat,
which is most
because you
important.
can be this phenomenally healthy guy at the gym, and all the muscles pumping iron and all fit and healthy, and you're eating burgers. And you're eating fried foods and fish and chips and all the fried things, and your cholesterol goes up. And we often see this. You get the nice, thin, healthy-looking guy, and he's the one that gets a stroke and the heart attack because his diet is bad.
Let me introduce Mandisa on this one. You have experienced one stroke. Was a stroke?
It was 3 years ago in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah,
because now and then, as a person, now and then you want to cheat and go across your burgers, your chips, but I'm diabetic. One of the major causes of my stroke was diabetes. And I had a stroke in 2010. I had just turned 32. And that's how I got my stroke. I wouldn't say, yes, I would, like any other person, I would eat your burger, your chips. But when the doctors checked, it was the diabetic levels that led to the stroke in 2010. Yeah.
All right.
Yes, I have changed my lifestyle. Yes, and I've been a gym person, Professor, even before the stroke. Yes, I have changed my lifestyle. I check what I eat. And even the life I'm living now is healthier, because now I know of the dangers of not watching what you eat, and of your stress levels and things like that.
I mean, that's interesting that she's touching on stress levels as well. There's a link between what you eat and how you feel, and how you cope, or stress mechanism. I don't know the technical term for it, but Professor, can you just explain that link to us?
Stress is an interesting concept. Now, it's become the buzzword. Everybody's stressed. You're stressed, I'm stressed, she's stressed, we're sitting here, we're stressed, people are working out there, driving to this place, it's busy. Stress basically refers to the pressures that we feel, that we ourselves create. Remember, everything we create ourselves, right? So whatever work we're doing, if we're not happy at it, don't like doing the hours that we do, or whatever, those are the pressures that we're creating, and that's the stress. But it doesn't stop there, because that kind of stuff affects you. It affects your body. It's known that when you're under tremendous amount of pressure, the blood pressure rises. You can get dizzy, you get headaches, you get chest pain. You can't breathe properly. The anxiety levels go up. Your hormones, we have stress hormones, right? Those hormones were supposed to be protective. In the old days, they were what we call the flight and fright hormones. So when someone was threatening you, then you had this release of adrenaline and you had this release of all these hormones that protected you or prevented you from being attacked. But now, these simple, basic daily matters that we're not controlling, they increase the adrenaline levels, increases your blood pressure, affects the arteries, causes vascular disease.
All right, let's talk more about this. Before we take a short ad break, let me remind you that you can also be part of this show by calling us on our participation line. That's 011-714-6918 or 011-714-6919. You can also email us to consumer@sabc.co.za or visit our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter. Sinamkele kwakhona babukeli sisancokola ke ngokubaleka kokutya okusempilweni nokukhuselekileyo okunezinga eliphansi letyiwa iswekile nezinye izinto ke ukuthintela izifo ngezifo ezinegalelo elibi kwimpilo zethu. Now to take part, please call us on 011-714-6918 or 011-714-6919. Email us to consumer@sabc.co.za kanye ke ungasifumana ku Facebook okanye ku Twitter. We now welcome Dr. Vash Mungal Singh from the Heart and Stroke Foundation, and she is in our Cape Town studio. Doctor, welcome to Yilingolo Lakho.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let me just include you into our conversation. We looked at the legislation that Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi signed in March of this month, looking at our salt intake. Just as the Heart and Stroke Foundation, your thoughts on this legislation?
Well, Sisanda, we support this. We fully support this move for the reason that South Africans consume a lot of salt. And in fact, if you compare us to the rest of the world, we consume more salt than most other countries in the rest of the world. And so we do need to address the levels that we're taking in, and we also need to look at the incidence of hypertension in this country, which is affecting about 1 in 3 people. So yes, salt intake is definitely a priority for us.
All right. But looking at those stats, they show that about 130 heart attacks and 240 strokes occur daily in South Africa. Elaborate on this statistics and, of course, what it says about South Africans.
Well, it is saying that we need to be concerned. That's the first thing. The second thing that we need to take note of is that up to 80% of these disabilities and deaths are preventable. A lot of them are as a result of our lifestyles. That means that South Africans are increasingly adopting unhealthier lifestyles. So the way we live, the choices we make in our behaviors is affecting our health, and we need to take control of that.
Professor Modi, earlier on, before we went to our ad break, we were talking about the link between food and stress, but just explain to us the risk factors, and obviously looking at the diet of these risk factors.
Okay, we usually say there are 5 key risk factors in stroke, a few more in heart attack, but in terms of stroke we have diabetes, and you said that was one of your issues. Now, diabetes relates to control of your sugar levels, your food intake. Also, there are obviously genetic factors and the insulin levels, so there's a direct link with diet there. High blood pressure, we just spoke about salt as a key risk factor in hypertension. And like Dr. Singh said, we have a tremendous amount of hypertension in this country. You know, it's a public health problem. Smoking, right? Now, the first world, the rate of smoking goes down. In the developing nations, what happens? It goes up. And so our rate of smoking has gone up. And that's a key risk factor. You know, they say if you smoke more than 4 cigarettes a day, your risk of a heart attack quadruples. right? And yet we see more and more young people smoking. Okay, then the other one is the cholesterol problem, and this can be a genetic problem, but it's also a big dietary factor, right? And the fifth one, which is a major risk factor in stroke, is the oral contraceptive. Okay, that may be something more difficult to control and not directly linked to diet. But the four that we're talking about are all linked to lifestyle, diet, health.
Mandisa, zinto obuzazi eziphambi kokuba na wena ufunyanwe stroke?
I wouldn't say yes. I knew the risks with not taking the right diet, with leaving the sugar levels uncontrolled. But the oral contraceptive, unfortunately for me, I didn't know. I only knew when I was now sitting on a wheelchair trying to recover from the stroke and read a leaflet from an oral contraceptive I was using. It did say in black and white, in some patients it causes cardiovascular accident, which is a stroke. I was shocked. I never knew that.
I mean, Mandisa's case, it means that most of us don't know this. I mean, it's new information.
Need to know this. Yeah. This is the kind of health education that needs to go out. You know, in parts of the world, okay, heart attacks seem to take a big role in health education, but strokes don't. In parts of the world, they have a stroke attack day. And they talk about stroke attacks, not just strokes. And they're pumping the education to make people aware of it. Because the problem is this here. When you have a heart attack, you may die, or you may be left with a bit of heart problems that you can treat. When you have a stroke, it's devastating. You're paralyzed on one side. I mean, you've made amazing recovery, and we do get stories like this where people make tremendous recoveries. But the disability and the debility caused by this, it's something we have to avoid. It's something where the health education must be a priority.
But what would have made Mandisa's situation different?
She had uncontrolled sugar levels, diabetes. She's hypertensive. Her weight was probably out of control. And, okay, the oral contraceptive is a difficult one, but in the context of the other risk factors, it just added more risk to her developing a stroke. So she was a walking time bomb, so to speak. And nobody told her this. And she didn't know this. It's because we don't give the information out there. We need much more stringent, rigid health education. You should go to your doctor's office and it should be filled with pamphlets about how to prevent strokes, how to prevent heart attacks, all of those things. Now we can treat her. Now we know what to do with her. We'll put her on the aspirin, we'll put her on this on the cholesterol-lowering drug, get her sugar levels well controlled. We can monitor all of this. All of this is treatable.
All right. We do have Maggie from Boksburg. Maggie, welcome to Ilungelo Lakho.
Yeah, hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Ndiyakuva mama ungathetha.
Yeah, I just want to find out. I mean, I grew up with a heart problem whereby I would just collapse, and the only way to bring me back to life, my mom had to give me a very hot step just to activate my nerves. But I outgrown that because I'm a person who used to love exercising. But now, as I'm growing older, I realize that each time I get sick, my blood pressure levels drop. I don't know what could be the problem.
All right, Professor, I don't know if you can help her in this situation.
She basically said that each time she gets sick, her blood pressure levels drop.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's had some heart problem for a very long time, and she's improved. You know, difficult to say like this what would cause the blood pressure levels to drop. But she could have something to do with what we call postural hypotension. So there may be something like that, and I think she really needs to see her doctor to check on this. You know, there may be a feeling that the blood pressure is dropping. She might be having some other reason. And when you get lightheaded or slightly dizzy, you think your blood pressure is dropping. But she really needs to be checked. I think she must go to a doctor.
All right. Please join us after this ad break. Welcome back. You're still watching Ilungelo Lakho. It's Your Right, coming to you live on Zanzi for sure, and that's SABC 1. And we are still talking about the importance of healthy food, including lifestyle and the need for physical exercise. And my guests are Professor Girish Modi, a neurologist from Wits University. We also have Mandisa Mnamenzi from the Stroke Survivor Foundation, and of course Dr. Vash Mungal Singh from the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Noah from 4Ways.
Hi, how are you?
Ndiyaphila bhuti kunjani?
Ndiyaphila kwam, and I've got a message for Mandisa.
Okay.
Mandisa, I just want to say you're an inspiration to all stroke survivors. Seeing you on screen now, so confident and looking so beautiful, I think you really are an inspiration. You are going to ensure that you and the Stroke Survivors Foundation are going to ensure that many people are aware of the epidemic that is strokes in South Africa and the importance of leading a healthy lifestyle as well.
All right. Enkosi kakhulu ke Noah. Mandisa, benifuna uza kuwe ukubuza bana abantu ba react kanjani kuwe xa ubaxelela bukhe wane stroke.
It's a long road, because from Lasivela Kona, Sisanda, strokes are usually for older people. It's an impression we grew up with. Stroke. I was 32, and people were shocked. Some people still talk about me even now. They were just 10. When I come, they will just nudge each other and say, "It's this one." And some would say she'll never survive it. It's because whenever, even before I had a stroke, I would hear people talk about somebody who had a stroke and died. And when I heard about the stroke, even myself in that ICU, I even froze, and I wondered if I was ever going to survive it. But people, it's funny, people will never say she survived. It's a few people, and those people who would support you all the way, who would be happy that you survived. Some get shocked that you really did. It's funny how community and the world out there think when a person has suffered something like a heart attack or a stroke, minimal chances of surviving are very slim. But I think it's about time when society needs to change that perception that they have about people who had stroke or a heart attack.
All right. Yeah. Dr. Vash, I'm sure you've heard what Mandisa had to say, and obviously Noah, our caller, saying Mandisa is an inspiration because she's a face now to people who are close to her. I mean, I just want to find out from the Heart and Stroke Foundation, you are visible, the kind of awareness programs that you are running, because it's obvious that people need to know more about these diseases.
Absolutely. You know, there are 2 points to this. One is that the Heart and Stroke Foundation recently became Heart and Stroke. The focus, like Professor said earlier, was on heart disease and heart attacks. But we realized that stroke is a huge issue in South Africa. And so we are now the Heart and Stroke Foundation, and where we now we used to celebrate World Stroke Day. From this year on, in October, we will have the South African Stroke Week, and this is to create awareness here in this country that stroke is such a big issue. So that's the first thing to consider. The second, which is related to Mandisa and the caller, is that it is so important for people to realize that stroke doesn't always kill. Generally, it leaves people with disabilities that they have to learn to live with. And a lot of times, our society tends to ostracize people with disabilities. So we need to create awareness that these are people, these are real people who can recover a large part of their lives in terms of returning to normality. And we need to support them. One, we need to create awareness and prevent, but also those people who are affected and their families need to be supported through this process as well.
Professor Modi, what we're saying is these non-communicable diseases that we're talking about are preventable and treatable.
Absolutely.
That's the message.
That's the message.
But I want to also find out, we live in a society that bombards us with fast food ads. I mean, will it be easy to now suddenly shift our mindset to how we eat, to how we live? And for somebody who has not even started jogging, maybe you'll suggest that they start walking, but that lifestyle change?
You see, I think that must start from the word go. You see, there used to be a professor at Wits, and most of you know him, Harry Seftel. He used to say, all these bad diseases start in childhood. You know, and we need to do that education throughout. So the idea is not to wait until you get the stroke to change. The idea is to create a society or to change the thinking in the society so that we don't rush to the fast foods, we don't rush to the cigarettes, we don't rush to the alcohol. We temper those, you know, we balance it, we have a balanced diet. It's easier to sell fast foods than it is to sell healthy foods. They don't taste as nice. That's the problem. You know, so it's a losing battle. But you have to go out there and tell people, you know, there must be some way of encouraging eating habits. You can't just live on fried chicken every day. It's a terrible thing. It tastes awful to me. But some people love it. That's why they make so much money out of it. So it's a health economic issue. And I think we need to start marketing the healthy stuff.
But just a simple example, somebody who loves to drink and you're saying to them balance.
Yeah, you have to balance.
What's recommended?
Somebody who loves to drink. Alcohol, you mean?
Alcohol. I'm sure water is fine.
Water is fine. No, I mean they need to look at this in the context of life. I mean, if you sit and you're drinking every single day, do you know what damage you're causing? You're damaging your arteries, you're damaging your liver, you're damaging your heart, you're damaging your head, right? And at the end of the day, what enjoyment have you got out of this? It doesn't even make you feel nice. It makes you feel sick the next morning. You know? So none of this is
Dr. Vesh, your thoughts on this lifestyle changes, just simple things people can start doing.
Well, people need to consider that you need to start, and I agree with Professor, you've got to start from childhood because this is a lifelong disease. So parents, grandparents, caregivers need to ensure that they instill healthy habits in their children. You know, it doesn't help a child if you are teaching them unhealthy habits in childhood and then once they get into adulthood, they're meant to break those habits and transform. It makes it just more difficult. The other thing is that it's about small changes. And one doesn't have to, and I always say you don't need to eat steamed foods and vegetables every day, all the time. But it's about balance again. And small changes, walking a few extra steps every day. If you are going to indulge from a food point of view, make sure you're active, you're physically active. Take the stairs at work, park at a distance and walk a little more. It's very small little things that one can do, tweaks in your life that can have a massive effect.
All right. I understand we have a caller on the line. Dithetha nabani? Nicholas wamkelekile enkqubeni? Nicholas from Rustenburg wamkelekile enkqubeni tata? Nicholas ukhona? Nicholas ngabe ukhona? All right, Nicholas akekho okwangoku. For now, let's take another commercial break. Please join us after this. Ke sinamkele kwakhona babukeli siqhubeke ngengxoxo yethu yokubaleka kokutya okungenatyiwa amafutha neswekile into ezininzi ke ezichaphazela impilo yethu kaloku oko ke ungasisizela ke kwizifo ezinjengezifo ke zokuficala hypertension izifo ke zeswekile nezinye ingxaki ebomini kwaye ke ingcali zithi okona kutya kusempilweni kukhuselekileyo akuxabisi kangako empokothweni ukuthabatha inxaxheba ke sitsalela unxiba kwinombolo zethu apha e-studio ke and that's 0117146918 or 6919. Mandisa Mantiza Paguwe. There's something that I came across where I think it's a survivor's manual from your website where you were saying it's either you fight or flee. And people don't understand this experience until when ube kuyo. Mhlambe ungasicaphulela uthini nge-experience yakho?
Sisanda, what I noticed when I was in that experience is self-pity is a very dangerous space to be in. It's okay to have self-pity for a while, but after that you need to pull yourself up because if you do not, nobody will pull yourself up from there. Because you're the only one who can help you You need to tell yourself that I need to do this. I need to go back to normal life, okay, with my limitations. But in order for people not to look at you strangely, you have to start looking at yourself in a way you want people to look at you. Yeah.
It's interesting into obuyithethileyo yokubana actually males and females react differently to experience.
And in the foundation, now and then they would give you a number maybe for somebody who just had a stroke. And a few months ago, my colleague in the foundation gave me a number for a guy to call. He had just had a stroke. But it wasn't too long, it was about 6 or 8 months after his stroke. He was down and out. He just felt he wanted to give up, and the things that he was doing, even at the physiotherapist, did not help him. So as a female, I tried. You know, I cornered in every corner I could try, but that's when I understood that we're not made of the same material, the males and the females. I think I needed to be male to understand his point of view. Even though I thought that self-pity would be his demise, but he was resistant, you know, to get up and go.
All right, masiphinde siqhubeke isinayo Sipati from the Eastern Cape. Sipati wamkelekile enkqubeni? Sipati? Ukhona sisi? Sipati ukhona? All right. Akekho ke, I'm sure uzaphinda ke asizame kwakhona. It's very interesting. I mean, again, it comes back or boils back to education. We don't talk about these things. Professor, let me come back to you. Another health issue that we are facing. South Africa is apparently on its way in overtaking America when it comes to obesity. How big a problem do we have in South Africa?
But it's actually a global problem. I mean, obesity is like they say, it begins in childhood, right? You get fat babies become fat adults, and then they have all the diseases related to that. We live in an unusual society, strange society, where we have all these ads out there of people who look young, healthy, thin, muscular, pretty, and you know the whole fashion thing is on beauty and being thin, and yet we have this epidemic. It's an epidemic globally of obesity, and now we've bought into it. So we're also eating the junk foods, and it's related to your diet. People are eating fast foods all the time. It's easier to give your kid a burger than to sit down and make a healthy sandwich. These are the simple things that we're not doing. You see, that's why it has to start back in childhood. We feed our children not breast milk but bottle milk, and we feed them till they eat, until we satisfy that they eat. So we make them fat from the word go. And so the dietary habits continue like that. And obesity is a big thing. The complications of obesity, heart attacks, strokes, kidney disease, arthritis, there's even a name for this, the metabolic syndrome. So people develop all these things, and the effects on the human body are enormous, and we need to deal with that.
All right,
it's a huge problem.
Sinayeke Nicholas from Rustenburg. Nicholas, wamkelekile enkqubeni?
Kunjani sis?
Ndiyaphila tata. Ndisacela uncimela iTV yakho ke kuba uyilayitile ne?
Okay.
Enkosi kakhulu. Ufuna uthini kuthi namhlanje?
Ndine stroke ngo-2004 ne. So some affect ebusweni ndajike kumlomo lo. And then ilihlo lami lase left la alabona. So kudala ndisiya ko doctor ababone next elihlweni lami, so benifuna ukuqonda uba ndingancedakala na.
All right, enkosi kakhulu ke tata. Nicholas had a stroke in 2004, and his face, I think, shifted. His left eye, I think that's what he said, he can't see with his left eye. He doesn't know what to do. He's gone to see doctors, but they don't, I suppose they don't know what's wrong. He wants to know how he can get help.
Okay, he needs to, it depends on, obviously he needs to either use the public system and end up at a hospital where there are facilities for all of this. He lives, where did he say he lives?
In the Eastern, Rustenburg.
Rustenburg. So, you know, there is a big teaching hospital there, and he could go to that hospital. He needs to go to the second level of care. So he's at a stage where he's just dealing with the primary healthcare workers or the general practitioners. He needs to move one step up from there. They need to refer him. So we can identify why he had the stroke. Obviously, he still doesn't know. Has he got risk factors? He doesn't know. and how to deal with the effects of the stroke. The vision that he can't see, the paralysis, he's obviously had no treatment. And this is the problem we have once we're outside our major centers, like Johannesburg. Then in Rustenburg, which is not so far away, the facilities are not available or not there. So he really needs to be referred to a second or tertiary level of care.
Okay. Dr. Vesh, are these kind of problems that Nicholas, or well, his problem right now, something that you've come across, and also the environment where a person comes from also contributing to how they can get help?
Yes, well, that is a problem because those who live outside the urban areas don't have much access to good quality health care. We're also talking about access to healthy foods. For example, if as you move out of the city areas, you'll find that healthy foods are actually not as readily available. So whilst we can educate people and give them the information, they can't go out there and buy or even afford the healthier options. In terms of access to care, that is a big problem. There is little support. People who have had strokes don't have support out there, even from a family point of view. So what happens is they get left at home to fend for themselves, and the conditions are actually very, very sad. So we need to address that as well, the structure.
But if there aren't any healthier options, what would you suggest one do?
Well, that's, the obesogenic environment is a challenge that we're looking at. And in fact, one of the things that the Minister of Health is looking at is advertising junk foods to children, as just one example. For the reason that you find that we influenced more and more by advertising of unhealthy foods. And the majority of unhealthy foods, or the majority of the adverts that you would see on food stuff are made up of unhealthy foods. So that is one issue, the fact that we're surrounded by these messaging around unhealthy foods and we're tempted by it. The second is schools. And as an example, what are schools serving to children in their tuck shops or in their canteens? And it's generally very unhealthy foods. So that's another area where we need to make it more accessible to children, where when we ask them to choose healthy, you have healthy options available to them so that they can buy or choose healthier options. And those are the things that we need to start looking at.
But another issue, some would say that the healthier options aren't really that nice to eat. I mean, what do you say in that situation?
That's not necessarily true. And that is something that we came across time and time again. So we at the foundation took up that challenge. And about a year and a half ago, what we did was we went out to South Africa. We asked them for their favorite recipes. We collected about 70 odd recipes that all cultures, race groups eat in South Africa. We then adapted those into healthier versions. And trust me, we have a book, and I will challenge you to try out recipes from that book. And they're healthy. You even have chocolate cake that can be a healthy version. All right. So yes, you can indulge.
Okay, thank you. We do have Sipati from Eastern Cape. Sipati?
Hello, Sisi.
Kunjani, sis?
Ngiphilile njani?
Ethetha mama?
Ngizindaba kuba uzibona njani ba unto uzofuna sisgrade broke.
All right. Mamela kumaboni wakude mama, ibaleke kakhulu imessage yakho. But for now, let's take our final ad break. Hlala kunye nathi. Welcome back, sisabele mgamama wethu ke ngencoko yethu yanamhlanje. Professor, let me come to you because Sipati called us earlier asking about the signs and symptoms, and really, how do you know? How do you tell?
Okay, the clearest symptom or the simplest symptom that you're having a stroke is paralysis on one side of the body. Everyone knows it. If you get heavy on your one side, or if the side of your body gets numb, or you get a tingling sensation going over the whole side of the body, you're having some problem in your brain. And that's what happens. Other symptoms of paralysis on one side is what we see as the commonest clinical symptom or sign of a stroke. There are other things, loss of speech, vision loss like the one caller called about, twisting of the face, loss of balance. You may have a stroke in your hindbrain, strokes in your spinal cord, paralysis of your both legs, bladder loss. So those are some of the other symptoms of strokes. So we in the medical world, we call it focal neurological disturbances. So something that happens on a part of your body, one side, arm, leg, face, speech, balance. Those are the main things.
Do we have different types of strokes?
Yeah, we have different types of strokes. We classify strokes, and this is a nice thing to do because it's simple. We talk of strokes where your blood vessels burst in the brain, the hemorrhages. Those are the dangerous ones, and those are the ones where people think you're going to die, and a lot do die. And then we get what we call the thrombosis or the thrombotic or ischemic strokes, the ones I spoke about earlier, where blood flow decreases and you get clots in the arteries, and then it prevents blood going to the organ or to that area of the brain. That area of the brain becomes lack in nutrition and oxygen and dies. And so that's the second kind of stroke. We also talk of what we call embolic strokes. One of the callers talked about a heart problem. Now, embolic strokes are when you get little clots shooting out from your heart, running through all the blood vessels and then blocking. So those are the three main types of strokes: hemorrhages, thrombosis or what we call ischemia, and the embolic strokes. But all strokes, sudden onset of something in a part of your body, what we call a focal event.
All right, Mandisa, ndiyafuna ukuza kuwe ndibuze wena wazazi njani xa ufunyanwa si-stroke?
I had a numbness of one side, especially my left hand. But it happened gradually from the morning till about 1, 2 during the day, until I could see that something was wrong. And when I tried to go to the bathroom, it was during the day, I had lost a bit of balance. So for me, it was a bit of all the symptoms that Professor has been telling us about, because eventually, when I eventually got to the doctor, it was already late in the day, and I had already had all those things until I was rushed to the hospital where I had my bladder failing and everything else.
Dr. Vash, we have a listener who sent us an SMS basically asking that she has diabetes, she has high blood pressure. She wants to know whether her children will be affected.
Well, we know that family history is very important. So yes, if she has diabetes and hypertension, then her children need to be monitored to see if they develop it as well. At the same time, though, she needs to ensure that she watches their lifestyle. You have two influences. One is from the genetic or hereditary point of view that places her children at higher risk. But what they can control is their behaviors and ensure that they need to ensure that they live healthier lifestyles.
Earlier in the year, to be exact, the 7th of April, which marks World Health Day, there was a call to South Africans to know their blood pressure. How important is this? Dr. Vash?
It is very important for people to know their blood pressure level, for the reason that we call hypertension the silent killer. You tend not to have signs and symptoms. So if you are hypertensive, you may not know it. More often than not, you don't know it. So you have to be tested in order to know what your blood pressure level is.
Professor, let me come to you just as we wrap up. If we forget anything we were talking about today, what's important for us to do right away?
I think we must look at all those risk factors, get our lifestyles organized, get that diet sorted out, think non-obese, don't go towards becoming the obese person with all the challenges of obesity, and really, biggest things that we can do, control diet, and we must exercise. And, don't get swamped by all those ads that we see every day.
All right, we do have another caller, and it should be our last one. Sibongile from Standerton. Sibongile wamkelekile nkubeni? Sibongile? Sibongile?
Yebo sawona ma.
Kunjani?
Ngisaphila.
Thetha mama.
Wo ma mina bengicela inamba yefax yalapho.
All right. Sawucela uncede ke mama ubambe emnxebeni. Somebody will help you. Thank you very much to Usibongile from Standerton. Survivors Foundation. I mean, I'm sure nawe unawo umyalezo kubantu abamameleyo. Your message.
My message is let's look after our health. We must not wait till it's too late. And unfortunately, if we did wait until it's too late and you find yourself in my situation, I would say there is hope out there. Yeah,
Dr. Vesh, your last words? Your advice?
My advice is, or at least for me, most important is protecting our children. We need to bring them up with good habits. If we don't, then we are bringing them up to die young and have disabilities at a young age. There will be no quality of life. So we need to protect our children.
In fact, the Heart and Stroke Foundation has launched a line where people can call in to find out about this issue.
Yes, absolutely. It is our health line, and people can call us at any time to talk about lifestyle-related advice, on problems that they're experiencing, and we have dietitians who man those lines and can give them whatever advice it is they need, or refer them on to appropriate people and institutions as well.
I mean, I did say that you are an organization that's visible out there. Another program that you are on is the Salt Watch, especially because we touched on the new legislation. Just tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, in order to support the legislation that the Minister of Health has just signed, we realize that we also need to go out there and educate people and raise awareness, because policy and legislation alone is not going to change behaviors. So very soon you will start seeing our messages going out to the public to ask people to change their behaviors around salt use. And it's about the amount of salt that they use to cook or to add to the table.
All right, so thank you very much. Babukeli ke abathandekayo, sifikelele ke esiphelweni senkqubo yanamhlanje. I would like to thank my studio guests for making time to be on the show. Sibulele nani babukeli emakhaya ngoba nathi ke kude kube ngoku. Please join my co-presenter Alicia Jali next week for another live consumer topic of the week. Ukufumana ke impinda yenkqubo zethu masitibane ke apha ngemivulo ekuseni susela ke ku9:30 ukuya ke ku10:30. That's SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. From me, Sisanda Jonas, and the entire team, it's goodbye. Yimini xesha elimnandi.